Morning, I'm Jon Thelen. Today on Fish Head, we're doing a little bit of late summer trolling. It's that time frame of the year where, people call it the dog days, and fishing can get tough, but when it really comes down to it, these fish are just looking for a faster moving, bigger meal, and a lot of times that's why the live bait presentations really slow down at this time of the year, and lead core trolling or trolling deep water in one way, shape, or form with big lures can really be the ticket. Stay right where you're at. Fish Head's coming up. Ooh, there's one right there. Look at that. Just turned back and this rod was just doubled over. Ooh, that feels like a nice fish too. You get to this time of the year, mid to late summer, dog days. It's August. It's that time of the year where everything starts feeling tougher. The fish have left the easy stuff. A lot of times, they're just no longer willing to bite that bobber and leech presentation you might have been using, or that Lindy rig, or all of a sudden that happens because there's just so much bait in the lake. And what happens is, to catch fish, you got to do one of two things. One, you got to find spots where there might be a few walleyes hanging around where there's not bait, and that's not easy to do. Or you got to fish a technique, you got to fish in a manner where you're doing something different. You're doing something that the walleyes will trigger on. And that's why we're pulling cranks. And there's fish on the screen right here. There's fish all over here. But I'll tell you what, it's not easy to make them bite. That's a big walleye too. Awesome way to start our day. Really good fish. And here's the deal. This fish came up and grabbed a bait that looked different to him coming by. It's not what he's eating. It's a little bit different. It's a stick bait. It's a Smithwick Rogue. But the big thing is, there he got himself unhooked. Look at that. Perfect. Every now and then you get lucky, right? What an awesome walleye. But here's what's great about this. The technique in this fish right here. He came up and he snapped it for one reason. I'm gonna slow this boat way down and we'll make sure we get this fish back. But he came up and snapped it. Ooh, look at that. Perfect. Gonna go on his own. That's awesome. He came up and snapped it for one reason though. We triggered him. And that's what you gotta do in the dog days. That's what you gotta do when there's bait everywhere in the system. You have gotta trigger fish. You gotta give them a reason to jump outside of their box and grab it. And if you do that, you're gonna catch fish in the dog days when a lot of people are saying fish aren't biting. They're still biting. It's just a question of putting the right bait in front of them and triggering them to get them to go. There's one right there. But one of the things you'll notice that I'm doing today, and I think it makes a huge difference, I talk a lot about boat control, and I'm a firm believer that I can catch fish pretty much every day as long as I've got good boat control. But most often people think of boat control being just that bow mount electric when you're sitting on a tight little spot. Let me tell you, one of the biggest things I do when it comes to trolling cranks is I worry about speed to a tenth. It's a big deal to me. A tenth of a mile an hour makes a big, big difference a lot of days. Another good eye. Oh yeah, perfect fish. Not a giant, but a great eater-sized walleye. Look at that. But that tenth of a mile an hour to me can just be the day. It's the difference a lot of days between a bunch of bites and not. It's just that big a deal. And here's the thing I'll tell you about that, is if I can set my kicker to do what it's doing right now, fish like this one right here, I can get dialed in to exactly what speed these guys want me at. And here's what I've done right now. I'm sitting here cruising along at that 2.3 and I'm able to sustain it in these waves, in these conditions. I'm able to actually sustain a speed, and that's not easy to do, but here's how I'm doing it. I'm using the kicker for propulsion. You'll notice today I don't even have the extension handle on it. All I'm doing is setting that where I want it to, be the motor to move me forward. That's all I'm doing. This is the critical piece right here though. What I'm doing with my electric motor now is I'm actually steering the boat, but I'm also making those super fine-tuned adjustments by just adding a little bit of speed with one push of the button, and all of a sudden maybe I'm not going up a full tenth, maybe it's a half of a tenth. But I can dial in because now I'm doing it with two different motors and I can steer with the front end, and it's a lot easier to move the front end when you're pulling the front end with the electric motor than what it is when you're trying to push the front end around with the kicker. That's why I use both motors in this situation. If you can use two motors, I'm gonna tell you right now, your boat control can be just perfect. Don't think boat control is only for those days when you're sitting on top of fish and trying to camp on them. Boat control's also for those days like this, where you're trying to hit an exact speed and paint a line down an edge, whatever it may be. Putting cranks in front of fish in the right manner at the right speed makes all the difference, and it's doing it for me today. Soon as I juiced it up, got a little bit faster, and then found that 2.3, boy, I'll tell you what, 2.2 to 2.4, trying to stay at 2.3, I'll tell you what, it's just deadly now. There's one right there. Whew. Spun right off the reel there. Feels like a decent fish. I don't know if it's as big as that first one, but feels like a pretty good fish. It's made a color change here. One of the things I'll do is I'll cycle through a lot of colors at this time of the year, because as much as I tell you that I'm trying to give them a look that's a little bit different than all that bait, I can do it with size of lure. I can do it with action on the lure. And the other way I can do it is with color. And the other thing I'll tell you is, man, when the sun's out and you got high skies like today, the colors I'm cycling through first are the metallic stuff. I put a clown one on this one. Oh, nice eater size fish. I put a clown one on this one though, and man, this walleye jumped up and grabbed it right away. Let's see if we can just hoist him in here. Look at that. Great fish. Got a couple tags in him. DNR's paying a lot of attention to this guy. Look at that, right in the snout. Nice eye right there. And talk about those tags. He's been tagged 2 different times in one of these studies out here where they're paying attention to what's going on with the walleyes. But here's one of the things I'll tell you. You look at that lure right there. Lots of flash. These high skies, there isn't a cloud in the sky today. These high skies, man, you get that and it's just flashing. I mean, even when I'm doing this right now, you can see that color flashing, and I think that's a big, big deal. The other thing with a Rogue, man, you got rattles. So now you got the best of both worlds. You got a bigger profile bait, you got rattles, you got all these different colors, but man, like I said, I really like these metallics. You know, the first fish I got was on a chrome black. When you got a metallic bait down there doing this, and one thing about a Rogue is it gives you a lot of extra roll. You know, a lot of baits will just go back and forth like this, but a Rogue will give you a lot of roll while it's going back and forth, and that just gives you more of that flash, gives you more of that fish attractant, you know, grab their attention with color, grab their attention with flash, grab their attention with those rattles. And Smithwick Rogues have been one of my favorite cranks for years, and they've been one of my favorites because they catch fish in the dog days of summer when I got to go down deep and get them. They also catch fish in the fall when I'm trolling up in the shallows, and in the spring it's a deadly bait as well. I mean, Smithwick Rogues, there's one made for every season. I mean, it's just a phenomenal bait. Ooh, there's one right there. Look at that. Ooh, that feels like a good fish. Yeah, it's another good one. Ha! Man, that's the cool thing about this. Just kind of turn this boat a little bit. You can come out and you can still catch fish at this time of the year. What's really interesting to me, and it just really lends to what I'm talking about as far as changing your tactics, coming out fishing and doing this kind of thing. Is when you look around today, I've seen 2 other boats on the water. This is popular water that I'm on. This is a big popular lake. And the bottom line is, there's nobody out here fishing. And the reason they're not out here fishing is we've passed that point of the year where Lindy rigs are easy. We've passed that point of the year where spinners are easy. And it's because there's so much bait in the lake. But yeah, you can still come out and catch these fish. These are the same fish that you were getting bobber fishing. These are the same fish you were getting rigging. Or you just got to put something in front of them that they're willing to eat. Oh yeah, there he is. Look at that. That is the second fish I've got today with 2 tags in him. He's a little bigger than that first one, but that's really interesting. That's almost hard to believe. But that's the second time today I've done that. There's 2 tags in that guy too. I think he's a little bigger than that first one. Man, that's awesome right there. Get out and do this. I'll tell you what, it's a pretty simple deal. I'm not doing anything way out of whack here. I'm putting lead core out. I'm cruising along with rogues. I'm cruising along the edges of structure where we're going from hard bottom to soft bottom. Those fish, they're frequenting that muddy area. They're working up here on top. They're still eating. In fact, they're eating more than they eat all year. Just put something in front of them that they're willing to eat like a rogue, and I'll tell you what, it can be lights out like it has been today.